And that's the thing about forgetting to press the start record button. You're not recording if you don't press the button. So
Well,
this is Go
hidden
Yubu
video. Horseman.
Oniwa. Yeah, I was saying to you earlier, I remember
Yeah,
the names
Horseman.
of every single boss except the guy who screams his name when he enters the arena, which I think is so hilarious to me.
That's just how forgettable he is.
I'm using the Japanese dub, which is the default dub. You can put it in English, and I was like looking up before I started. I was like, is there a big difference between the Japanese and the English dub? Some people prefer certain characters in different languages. I was like, some people are like, I don't like reading subtitles and they don't speak American.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Well, some people have problems like putting words they read to like stuff happening at the same time.
I don't know. So the bosses talk while you're fighting them, and as someone who beat the game, it was never an issue to me that I missed dialogue of them speaking to me while in a fight.
Right.
I guess I'm someone who reads subtitles a lot. I like generally when I watch shows and stuff, I have subtitles on, so I'm very used to just reading subtitles while doing stuff.
I find subtitles incredibly. Okay, in games I have them on. I don't know why. Like I think I can focus away from. But in like series and films, I can't have it on. I find I'm just like always looking at the bottom of the screen and like never paying attention properly.
Yeah, I think there's some like crazy statistic about like millennials that so many people have subtitles on in Netflix and stuff.
It's a ridiculously high number, and I personally don't understand it. But obviously, you can watch however you like. I'm not gonna be. Wait, who was the director? Was like, don't watch with subtitles, and I don't watch it on your phone. Like, who was that?
That sounds like, is it It wasn't Christopher Nolan or someone like that?
No.
It was it
like an older.
I don't know. You
Okay,
could. What's the name of that guy who does the weird films that Jay from Red Letter Media likes?
Yeah, it'd be one of those for sure. I think that is the guy I'm thinking of. I don't know. You know, I'm not very good. I'm not good with names at the best of times. I'm not very good with film directors either. And it's just like Michael Bay. It was Michael Bay.
Michael Bay said, "Log in there."
Michael Bay doesn't care if you have subtitles on or not.
What is his name? Was it David Fincher? Was that his name?
It might have been. It could have been.
No, I don't think it was him. He did fight. I'm just looking at lists of famous directors
now. Yeah. Anyway.
Joe,
you were saying.
Oh, was I saying?
Sekiro? Okay, actually, that's a good question. Sekiro or Sekiro? Because
I would say both.
Really, I feel like if you
Sekiro.
ask me 5 years, okay, you say that, but it's not pronounced Sakura. It's a Sakura tree.
I don't. So Sekiro is Japanese for a wolf with one hand, I believe. I could be making. Yeah. I'm fairly sure that's how it.
But if you asked me 5 years ago, I says, "Oh, it's clearly Sekiro." But like now, like I feel like I've seen more Japanese words. I'm like, "Oh, it's Sekiro."
But that makes it so at the start of the game. So let's just get into like what is happening right now. I'm fighting a boss. This is one of the first bosses of the game. Technically, you can fight Lady Butterfly first because there's a dream like a memory you can go to, which lets you go back to the Hirata estate and fight her. But that's one thing to say about this compared to some of the other Souls games. Some of the other Souls games are way more linear, whereas Sekiro is not at all open world, but it is a bit more open, I would say, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Compared to other games.
I would say in general, Dark Souls. I don't know about Dark Souls 1, but like definitely Dark Souls 3 is like it's kind of very similar to Sekiro, where it's like it's not open world, but it's not linear either. It's like interconnected regions.
Joe, have you ever played a From Software game before? No, I have never played a From Software game before, and I decided that Sekiro would be my first. To a lot of Souls fans, that sounds like absolute nightmare fuel because. I didn't know this, but apparently Sekiro is meant to be one of the hardest From Software games in some people's opinions.
I think it depends how much they like the parry system, right, or like the combat. Because I feel like again, someone has not actually played any of these games. I'm just going by what people have said. But my understanding is that Sekiro has like more like you're into like one type of combat, whereas like Dark Souls you have like more of a choice, and then like Elden Ring is
Oh,
like even more choice on top of that.
this really confused me. It said if you commune with a sculpt's idol and confront the memories of the boss, you can permanently increase your attack power. Which made me go, oh god, I'm not going to fight the boss again to increase my attack power. That's not what it means. You literally go to the idol, you read some text, and it increases your attack power. There's a lot of stuff in this game that is not explained to you very well.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. But
I one thing I find frustrating with this is like they're trying to be like law minded with these text boxes, but it's a text box on the screen. You're not immersed anymore.
But the reason I chose Sekiro was, it's the one that looked the most fun to me. So I have the original Dark Souls.
Gamer.
Yeah. So background, if you don't know, I love games like fucking Neon White, arcade racing games, Titanfall, fast FPSs, speedrunning games, just stuff where you go really fast, it's really fluid, it's really smooth. And I played like the Dark Souls 1 years ago for like 10 minutes, and I was like, this is so slow and clunky, I hate this, I'm not playing this game.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always seen the Dark Souls games. I was like, these look slow, all you're doing is just rolling around dodging things, and it just seems like, so clunky. And then I saw people playing Sekiro, and I was like, wait a minute, this looks fucking smooth. This looks really fun. And I got it on sale like a few years ago. It's one of the few From Software games that goes on sale quite a lot because I think FromSoft publishes most of their games through, is it Bandai Namco? And they don't go on sale very often, but Sekiro is one of the few games they publish through Activision. So
right, yeah.
That's why it goes on sale quite a lot more than the other Souls games.
Yeah, it's interesting different in marketing strategy.
I started playing this, and I gotta say, I love this game. I think it's amazing. So I have finished the game completely now. I just beat the last boss a couple of days ago, and man, it's got, there's something about this game where watching myself play it and constantly criticizing myself because I'm like, oh, I should have done this counter here. Yeah, I made a mistake there. I should have done this. But it's like, I've described in the past where I watch games like Everhood or Neon White and stuff like that, and I watch it and it makes me immediately want to play the game when I watch gameplay of it. Sekiro's a game like that, where immediately watching anyone play it or watching back myself playing it, I'm just like, man, I want to get back into this and start playing it again. It is so much fun, and I understand when I read online, it said an insane amount of people who finish Sekiro go on to play New Game Plus several times. Because I kept reading about people who are on like New Game Plus 7. I'm like, how do you keep playing the same game over and over and over again like 7 times? And it was like, it's just, once you get in that core loop, it is so much fun. Like, I've heard Sekiro called a secret rhythm game in a lot of ways when you get into the parry system.
Oh, because I can see that. Yeah.
So as someone who's never played a Dark Souls game, I went into Sekiro just completely fresh, and I was like, I'm gonna learn the mechanics, right? And I've heard that Souls players really struggle with this game because it completely flips the formula on its head, where in Dark Souls games, it's about you have these big bosses and they hit you and you either dodge out the way or you have to take a health pot and basically...
Because you're managing resources for the dodging and the
fighting us. Yeah, so that's one big thing to mention is in Sekiro, there's no stamina. I think a stamina bar would piss me the fuck off. That's one of the big reasons I always said that I didn't want to play Souls games was because I come from playing hack and slash games. I love hack and slash games. Super fast, super fun, like God of War, Devil May Cry, Dante's Inferno, shit like that, where if you want to dodge out the way, you can dodge out the way. There's nothing to stop you dodging out the way. So it's just about your pure reflex times, and Sekiro's like that. There is no stamina bar at all. You can run, you can dodge, you can jump. Sekiro has a fully functioning stealth system that is really good, which is also something that is not in any of the other Souls games.
No.
And as someone who's a big fan of stealth, I found this to be really, really good. Like, I love fast-paced games. I love stealth. I think the setting of this game is really fucking cool. Like, you're not in some dark European castle fighting a slug in a dungeon. You're in like fucking feudal Japan fighting samurais.
I like the medieval and the gothic setting and the Bloodborne and Dark Souls. But yeah, I think having another place is like kind of refreshing. Definitely more foreign to like for us like in Europe, right? Japan.
But one thing to point out is in Sekiro, you can parry every single ability in the game. I don't think there's maybe one or two you can't, but pretty much every single attack an enemy does, if you can get the parry timing, you can parry it. And this game is called deflecting. So there's attack, which deals damage, obviously, and then there's block, where you hold down the block button, and this damages a resource that both you and the boss have called posture. And the interesting thing about posture is it's best to think about it like a second health bar, sort of. When you run out of posture, you basically get staggered, and the boss can easily attack you and knock you over and kill you. If you stagger the boss fully by filling up their posture meter, you can get a death blow, which will take one of their health bars away. So in Sekiro, it's actually very uncommon to kill a boss by chipping away its health. It's way more common that you will beat a boss by deflecting its attacks and attacking it so much that it loses its stance and loses its posture. Yeah. And this turns Sekiro into this really compelling, like immensely like neuron activating brain loop where it's like in Dark Souls, you can fight a boss for like 20 minutes and you go, oh, I've run out of health pots. I'm going to jump off a cliff because I can't beat this boss anymore. In Sekiro, you can use all of your health pots. You can be on like your last leg. You've used your resurrection. You've got nothing left. And if you play perfectly for 20 seconds, you can kill the boss. Like there's the idea of, never give up or...
never give up, never surrender.
Yeah, or like hesitation is defeat is something that you'll learn, especially towards the end. Sekiro rewards... It doesn't reward consistency as much as, a Dark Souls game does, but it excels at rewarding perfection. Oh my god, there's a couple of like boss attacks, like Genichiro, right? Where he does this attack where he spirals at you and he attacks you like 10 times in a row, and the feeling of deflecting every single attack and just destroying his posture is one of the greatest feelings in the world. I cannot describe it.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay, so I should explain the deflect mechanic. So if you block, you lose posture. If you block, you lose posture. If you parry or deflect, which means you push the block button as the attack's about to hit you, you will deflect it. And not only will you not lose your posture, you will take posture off the enemy. And it turns the game into this like flow state game where it's like deflect, deflect, attack, attack, deflect, 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 attack, attack, deflect, dodge, attack, deflect, deflect, deflect. And it just goes, it's like this secret rhythm game. It is so fun.
And there's combo stuff that you unlock as well, right? Where it's like you're trying to like fit in, I guess hack and slash combo-esque combat.
So at the start of the game, I was really struggling with a mini boss in a Shina estate called Shinobi Hunter, and he was a spear user, and I was getting my ass kicked by this guy. I was losing to spears constantly. And there's this skill you can get called the Mikiri counter, and it is by far one of the most important skills in the game, like to a point where people were recommending taking this skill, and I was like, I don't know if it's that important. And then I played the game, and I was like, okay, yeah, you should take Mikiri counter immediately. It is one of the most important skills in the game. Like you don't but the thing with every single boss and mini boss in this game is that they teach you a lesson without having to pull up a giant text box to say, you need to do this. It's like me dying like 10 times to Shinobi Hunter taught me everything I needed to know about Mikiri counter and spear users, or dying to 7 spears as well.
So teaching through gameplay, can you imagine?
Every single boss teaches you, like, by the end of the game, you are 100% ready to defeat the final boss because the way he fights you is the way that every single boss and mini-boss has already fought you before. And on top of that, he fights you with moves that you use as well. So you have these really powerful combat arts, and he starts using them against you. And I'm like, that's so fucking cool, because I know exactly what he's going to do, because this is stuff I've been doing to random NPCs the entire game. Like he'll use the Ichimonji double, the Akina cross, the all the shit like that. It's so cool. But yeah, so one of the reasons I think people say Sekiro is so hard compared to the Dark Souls games is not just because the parry system is so fundamentally different from the dodge, consistency rewarded of Dark Souls. One of the big reasons is in Sekiro, you don't have a power level. The only way to get stronger in Sekiro is, one, you can buy skills, which basically let you augment your ability. So I was telling you about the Mikiri counter. There's a couple of like latent skills, so you heal more, which is like, that I would consider that getting stronger, right? But
for sure.
For the most part, in Sekiro, you can't out-level a boss. It's actually not
just
possible.
Have to get good.
Yes.
Right.
Because
like a lot of people just like try and out. Our good friend always does this in games, like, and especially in Elden Ring, is like just leveling over a boss.
As somebody who detests grinding, I love this. It's like, oh, I don't want to have to sit and kill the same NPC for 20 hours. I just want to keep fighting the boss and don't feel like I have to keep grinding so I'm able to kill the boss, right? Like, I don't think I ever grinded for any of the bosses at all. So the only way to get more powerful is XP from getting kills, and then you get gold from enemies and items from enemies. And when you die, you lose a percentage of your XP, you lose a percentage of your gold, but you keep all your items. So that's how that works. Yeah. How you get more health and attack. Again, at the beginning I showed. So every boss you kill, you can increase your attack power by 1, and every 4 mini bosses you kill lets you increase your health. And there's a set amount of bosses and there's a set amount of mini bosses. So the only way to become more powerful is by getting better at the game, and every single mini boss teaches you something new about the game. Yeah. And it's like, oh my god, this is one of the best like designed hidden tutorials I've ever seen in a video game. It's like the way you get better is by getting better. It's like, this is so like intuitive that it feels crazy that no other game company feels like they've learnt this.
Yeah, it feels crazy, especially like how many people like trying to emulate the success of like Soulsborne games. Just like they just don't seem to quite understand what it is that makes it so good. But I guess it's kind of different to know what it is and it's to execute it for sure. But but I guess you're saying, like, to sum up kind of what you're saying there, and maybe a different way, is like if each boss and mini boss has a new mechanic, and it's then like you need to defeat this mechanic to be able to succeed. So you need to actually learn how to counter it and continue before you can get given the power from the boss or mini boss.
Yeah,
which makes sense. I think. Yeah, I think mechanically it sounds much better than just like, here's
I need to go and grind this random mobs for like 200 hours.
We have 5 levels you have to do before you get to the boss. It's exactly the same mechanic as the other boss. And like, okay, sure.
So these are like some rats. There's a quest to kill these guys, and then because the guy, like, there's so much of the quests in these games are like, they're not like, here's a quest, go here. It's like, I want you to go and kill some rats. These are the rats. He doesn't say those guys over there in hats, go and kill them. It's like, no, you just kill these guys. He's like, well done, you killed the rats. And you'll see me you'll see me get my ass fucking kicked by these guys because I have no idea what's going on, how to defeat them. But I can tell you exactly how to kill these guys now. Because I've died to them enough times that I'm like, oh, okay, if you hit that guy with the hat, he starts using his hat as a shield, and then you can use the axe mechanic to break his shield, because earlier in the game, it teaches you that the axe mechanic can break shields.
Yeah. I was always wondering, like, how are you meant to get around, like, shielded enemies like that? Because, kind of like... So they're called rats, but I would call them goblins, but let's ignore that problem.
Well, in the law, I think they're spies, which is why he calls them rats.
Yeah. I don't think...
I'm losing to this guy, and I don't realize that his hat's a shield. I need to figure that out. So, prosthetics, Tony. Why are they called prosthetics? It's because at the very start of the game, you fight a man called Genichiro, and Genichiro cuts your fucking hand off. And you start the game as a one-armed wolf. There you go, I broke the shield.
So you're saying you never asked for this?
Yeah, I never asked for this. Like Adam Jensen from The Expanse.
Yeah.
What was I say? So, it's actually a fight you can win, actually. Like, I feel like if I went to New Game Plus now, and I fought Genichiro at the start of the game, I would probably kill him. He would probably be very easy compared to the people I've fought now. But yeah, you technically can kill him if you, are good enough, but you only get to face him once at the start of the game, and it's like a triggered sequence where he cuts your hand off, because even if you kill him, he cheats and cuts off your hand anyway.
Right.
Because it starts the whole game giving you the prosthetics and the series of events.
I still think that's way more cool than what other games try and do. It is like you're trying fight this cheaty boss. Like, why can't I win if you happen to be much better at the game than it's expecting? And it's like, oh, I'm supposed to die. It's like, no. It's like there's this set sequence of things you can win, so you can feel rewarding, but it doesn't matter if you die because it's just the start of the game. I think that's a much better way than most other games to do that. Because it just feels more. It has a reward to it if you are better.
The basic story of Sekiro is that you are. At the beginning, you basically, there is a warrior called Owl who takes you as his ward. He finds you alone on a battlefield, and he's like, right, you're my son now. So you have this adopted dad figure who teaches you how to be a shinobi. And then he tasked you with looking after this young prince called Kiro? Is his name Kiro?
Is he the heir to the throne or something, or is he less important than that?
So he is the heir to the dragon blood. Kuro, sorry. Kuro is of the dragon's blood heritage, and that's the reason that you can resurrect, is that people around the dragon blood come back to life, essentially.
Right, that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Because no one can kill him, basically. And lots of people want to try and get their hands on him because they want to try and get the power of the dragon blood.
Yeah.
But that's the reason that starts you on this whole journey of people want the dragon's blood, and then Genichiro cuts off your hand and kidnaps Kuro. So you're going through Ashina at the moment trying to get Kuro back. That's sort of the start of the game.
Okay.
And
kind of a classic premise, yeah.
Yeah.
But satisfying one at that.
It sends you on this massive quest of exploration, and man, can I talk about, holy shit, the world design of Sekiro is so I spent so much time just exploring the world. I was constantly like, where does this go? Where does this go? Oh, okay. And I was just every time I load up the game, I was like, oh, I haven't been down here. I haven't been down. I wonder where this goes. And it was just it lets you go open. It's like, where do you want to explore today? And it's always just full of really interesting characters and mobs and settings and mini bosses and bosses. And it's just like, oh, where do you want to go today? And I spent I would just log in and explore for hours, just looking around, finding new stuff to do. And it sort of does just let you go where you want to go. You can fight mini bosses and bosses in any order you want to, because you can encounter them in different orders. I mean, there is like, for example, this boss that's about to come up, spoiler alert, you have to fight this boss here to progress the game. There's certain things that complete...
So there are gatekeepers, but
Yeah,
it's not...
and there's stuff that will change the world that will make it so you
like
can no longer access that content, which I ran into personally where there was too many bosses I couldn't fight because I progressed past a certain point and there was no way to
I call those like chapter progression like events or bosses and things because like it's like, oh, okay,
but the thing with like
can't go back.
From Software stuff, it seems to very rarely explain those to you. So if you miss that sort of stuff, you're just gonna have to miss it. Like for me,
but you know what, play the game again.
For me, I wanted to kill every mini boss and I wanted to kill every boss, and I managed to kill every boss on the ending I did, which I'll get into endings maybe after the spoiler alert. Maybe.
Yeah.
And I missed 2 mini bosses because I progressed so far in the story I couldn't go to this area that had the last 2 mini bosses I hadn't fought in them. So I was like, ah, fuck, okay. So I killed 38 mini bosses instead of like 40.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't need the power, so if anything,
if you fall off the map, you lose half your health bar. It's not an instant kill.
Oh, okay. Thank God.
I love how platforming in Sekiro is really good. I don't know if you've ever seen people try and platform in like Dark Souls or whatever, and it just looks awful.
Even in Elden Ring, I wouldn't say it's great. So.
The parkouring in Sekiro is really good. When you jump next to a wall, you can do a double jump by like sort of kicking off it, and then you can grab onto ledges.
Oh, okay, that's how you do that. Okay.
You also have a grappling hook in your prosthetic, which lets you get around the map very quickly and climb up to different areas. You can even hang off a ledge and like stealth kill people off ledges.
Cool.
The really cool thing about stealth is you are massively rewarded in this game for using stealth because if you can stealth onto a mini boss, you can immediately use a stealth death blow on them, which will take off one of their health bars.
It's not like it does more damage. It's literally just a whole health bar goes.
So
I prefer that.
Usually, you could tell who a mini boss is because they'll have these giant red circles above them, and they'll have a different amount based on how many they take to kill. You cannot stealth death blow bosses, and you'll know the difference between bosses and mini bosses. Bosses will be unstealth death blowable and will reward you with attack power when you kill them. And then mini bosses, you can stealth death blow, and they'll reward you with more health and posture after you kill 4 of them and you complete these prayer bead necklaces. This is the Blazing Bull.
Okay, some weird boss. So he's just there hanging out.
This is one of the ways.
Is this a spoiler?
I mean, this is pretty early on in the game, I would say.
Okay.
It's not, I just killed one of the first bosses, but this is like a secret mini. Because I had no idea this was going to happen. I was like, right, you saw those 2 guys up there. My plan was to go up and stealth them, and then this fucking bull just comes out of nowhere, and I was like, what the fuck is happening?
I see you scouting out like plays like trying to figure out what you want to do. Is that okay?
I'm looking for like
that is cool. Unexpected bosses are cool, by the way. I think that is. I think it can be overused in games, but I think if you do it right, it can be really cool.
I'm looking for the Shinobi Firecracker here because there's different types of enemies, and beasts are weak to firecrackers because it basically startles them, like it scares them. So you can actually
they're not people.
If you use firecrackers against beast types, you can actually stun them for like 5 seconds, which is very useful. Not to say this guy is not going to kick my fucking ass, because I think I died to him, and then I'm like...
I don't think I'd be good at any like Soulsborne game, but I feel like when I watch people play Elden Ring, like it was like the beast stuff. I was like, oh, how the hell do you even fight that? And I'm looking at this as well and going, what the hell? How do you? It's so unpredictable.
So, in my opinion, as someone who's finished the game now, my most favorite bosses to fight in the game are sword bosses. My least favorite bosses to fight are the beasts, because they are very unpredictable. And there's certain beasts that will have like 5 different attacks, and you're not sure which one they're going to do.
It's like I just find like, because there's meant to be like animations that are meant to like tell you that they're about to do something, right? That's when
so if you
to me,
see that,
beast stuff is so unpredictable that it's too
one thing to mention is there is always what's called a red kanji, and if a red kanji is above a enemy's head, it means they're about to do a perilous attack.
Right.
And that either means that you have to dodge it, counter it, or stagger them. Those are your options.
Okay. Or just not be in, yeah.
Yeah, dodge it, counter it, stagger it. Those are your three options when you see a perilous attack.
Yeah.
Because if you did so, as I was talking about before, hesitation is defeat. Sekiro massively rewards calculated aggression, but not spamming, which I think is like, holy shit. The game design of this game is so good. It's like, if you spam in Sekiro, you will get your ass kicked. But if you're aggressive and you basically you deflect when you need to attack, but you go in for those extra hits, you can break the enemy's posture, you can stagger them, you can get in there and you can actually go in and kill them, sort of thing. And it's like, oh my god, it's so good. It's like okay, so this is later in the game, Tony. You can see based on my health bar, I've killed a few mini bosses.
Spoiler tag?
Spoiler tag, fuck it, let's do the spoiler tag. This is one of the last bosses of the game, the second to last boss of the game, and he's also a completely optional boss that is also insanely fucking hard. He is one of the hardest bosses From Software's ever made.
This is one that's kicking your ass, then.
Yeah, okay. So let me pull up some stats that I have. So I had a counter for how many times I died because Armored Core is the first ever From Software game to run at 120 frames per second.
Right.
And every other game runs at 60 hertz. So I was like, I wonder if you could run this at like 120 or whatever, right? High refresh rate. It turns out you can. There's basically a frame rate uncapper that will let you run it at higher frame rates, which I think Digital Foundry made a video on. I was saying it was such a better experience running these games at higher frame rates. I think Dark Souls has like uncapped frame rate mods. Like Elden Ring has one as well. Like it's hard to go back to the lower 60 FPS when you're used to like that 120, 144, 165, whatever, right?
I feel like I don't play enough games that need like the frame rates. I'm not experienced like needing to have fast frame rates, so I have to take people's word for it. But I can imagine, like considering like other fidelity stuff, like so I could really see it's like once you get 120, you can't go back.
But throughout my entire Sekiro run, I died 191 times, and the bosses I died.
I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, I think it is pretty good. The bosses I died the most to were Genichiro. I died 30 times to, and I think if I was gonna say what my favorite boss in the game was, I would say Genichiro is probably my favorite boss in the game because he's so satisfying to fight, but he's also like this big early game roadblock that teaches you so much about the game.
Right.
That it's so fun when you like finally beat him, and you become a way better player after you beat Genichiro. It's nuts, which is really, really cool. I died to the Demon of Hatred 23 times before I killed him, and I died to the final boss Ishin 27 times before I killed him. So I died to this boss less, but if you said to me, based on that information, because the Demon of Hatred I died the least times to compared to the other two, Joe, what was your least favorite boss to fight? The Demon of Hatred is my least favorite boss to fight. I hated fighting this boss. And I'll tell you why.
Because he's called the Demon of Hatred?
No. Because the way you fight this boss is like a Dark Souls boss. It is the least Sekiro boss in the game, where he has so much health and death blows, where it's not about breaking his posture most of the time. It's just about consistent play, and parrying is not usually a great option against him because a lot of his attacks, even when you block them or parry them, they still set you on fire. So it's way better to just dodge them. And I feel like playing against the Demon of Hatred made me almost like have to relearn a different game. Whereas like this is the only boss you sort of fight like this. Like I would say beasts you definitely fight in different ways. But the Demon of Hatred, I would say especially, you cannot really fight it like a Sekiro boss in a lot of ways.
He does this like, so you can't parry any of this.
Yeah, you can, but
Okay.
a lot of his stuff, if you parry it, will still set you on fire, and fire damage is a pain in the ass.
So so you can technically, but you can't.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's way easy. So with this boss as well, like when he was stomping on me and stuff, you can parry that, and it is good to parry it, but it's way more consistent to dodge it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're fighting a sword-based user or a spear-based user, it's way better to deflect every time, I would say. So I'll kind of explain some of the things I'm doing here, because this is late game stuff. So I'm using a...
But this boss is optional, though.
This boss is completely optional, but I was people say this is the hardest, one of the hardest bosses in the game. I gotta fucking fight it, man. I gotta give it a go. Like, I want to kill every boss, and I want to kill every mini-boss. That was my goal, because I was having so much fun just playing the game. I was like, I want to just play more. But yeah, if you're like, I can't beat the Demon of Hatred, you can just ignore it. And if you're like me, and you're like, oh, I don't like the beast types, or it feels like you're fundamentally playing a different game, you can just go and fight Ishin and finish the game. You can even come back to the Demon of Hatred if you want to fight Ishin first. But what I'm doing, so I kind of explain what I'm doing. So when I started the fight, I'm Tantoing, which is an item you get for killing an undead, like, mage. And what Tanto does is it gives you more spirit emblems. Tony, what are spirit emblems? I'm glad you asked. Spirit emblems are what you use when you spend items on your prosthetics. So whenever I'm using the umbrella here, I'm spending spirit emblems.
Right.
The drawback of Tanto is that it costs health, but it gives you extra spirit emblems. And the reason I need spirit emblems for this fight is because this guy deals an insane amount of fire damage, but if you have the upgraded umbrella prosthetic, you can block all fire damage with it. So I need to be able to use this umbrella whenever he does his fire attacks. Technically, you can avoid every fire attack he does, but a lot of them are very hard to avoid. Right. To a point where I would say it's almost not worth trying to avoid them, and it's probably better to just use the umbrella. Also,
yeah, because I assume if you dodge too much, like this is kind of what Dark Souls is. Like if you dodge too much, you're then out of position to actually then do any damage.
So no, what you're thinking here, Tony, is this guy seems kind of like a beast. Wouldn't he be weak to firecrackers? No, he's not a beast. He's immune to firecrackers.
So he's a sentient, unpredictable
He's a demon.
monster. Yes.
Oh, by the way, that perilous attack there, Tony. I mentioned there was attacks that you could not parry. That's one of the attacks in the game you cannot parry. So this is why, like I'm saying, it's really fundamentally different. Because a lot of those perilous attacks you could parry, and this is one of the few bosses you can't. Because if you try and parry that, you'll just die. The only way to dodge it is by jumping out, not dashing out the way. You have to jump out the way.
Oh, okay, that's a bit okay.
Yeah,
that's a bit different.
But one of the cool things, so like with this attack, you could run away and get out of the fire blast zone. But the cool thing about the umbrella is, if it absorbs a fire attack, it lets you use it back as this counter attack, which deals a ton of health and posture damage.
Oh, that's how you get his posture, like so low, high.
So the thing about the Demon of Hatred is he regens posture very fast, and usually most Sekiro bosses you actually fight them on posture. The Demon of Hatred you fight on health, which makes it not like a Sekiro boss, but more like a Dark Souls boss.
Yeah. I would say this looks like a Dark Souls boss, like just like looking at it and the way you're attacking it. I feel like you could reskin, like take this exact like what you're doing, reskin it, and you could easily go, yeah, it's a Dark Souls boss.
I like how so there's a couple of bosses that people say, you know, in Sekiro the Dark Souls bosses, like the Demon of Hatred, but I think when Elden Ring came out, people, from what I've read now, people are saying Melania, the Scarlet Rot Woman, is a Sekiro boss in Elden Ring. Yeah. I feel like if you could parry Melina like you can in Sekiro, she'd be really fun to play as a Sekiro boss. It would be so satisfying to parry all of the Okay, it's so sad. I was watching deep lore videos on YouTube because I'm super interested in the story and the whole resurrection angle. And I'm watching these videos and he's going, yeah, there's some really cool stuff they've set up with Sekiro. I can't wait for the DLC to come out and they're going to like explain like Lady Tomo and look at more of like the cool story stuff. And it's just like, oh, posted 4 years ago. He doesn't know. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
It's just like, so if you don't know, Sekiro, they never made a DLC. The only DLC they ever made was they basically made a boss rush mode. So you could basically go through this gauntlet where you fight all the bosses, and they have like harder versions of the bosses as well.
Right.
Like you can fight Inner Tomoe Genichiro, which is like an evolved version of Genichiro. That is has unique attacks that aren't in the base game. That I think a lot of people like to. I might try that out at some point.
I will say, I think it's cool from the makes up hard of it adding mechanics, not just by changing stats.
Yeah, they don't. I would say like almost none of the Sekiro bosses are just sponges. I think the Demon of Hatred you're seeing on the screen now is probably the closest it gets, but I wouldn't say it's a sponge. It's just every single boss I fought in Sekiro, I never thought was unfair. Every single boss, I was like, I just need to get better. I can and like even fighting the Demon of Hatred, I got him to 1% health several times before I killed him. Like I was almost there several times, and that was like one of the most frustrating things for me was I almost lost. I was like tilted off the face of the earth because I got him to phase 3, I got him to 1% HP, and then I died. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, I have to go through his entire health bar again. Like holy shit.
That's where you have to just have a little rest. I thought, well,
but there are several times, like, so in Sekiro where the game will break you down, but if you bunker down, learn, and improve, it will let you build yourself back up into a much better player, and it is so rewarding if you do. I mean, that I would say like the big roadblocks I walked into as a player was for me. My first robot was Shinobi Hunter. Then it was, I was struggling with a spear user. I didn't fully understand the Mikiri counter. I got better. Then Seven Spears, who's a mini-boss, who is one of the hardest mini-bosses in the game. At least for me, early game it was. And again, he has this huge health bar, this huge posture bar. And as a new player, you're like, how the fuck do I ever beat that? You learn the Mikiri counter, and you learn to dodge his perilous sweep and bonk him on the head. And you can beat him really easily. And like, if I was to fight Seven Spears right now, I would destroy him. Then the next roadblock was Genichiro. I died 30 times to Genichiro, and he's my favorite boss. I think he is phenomenal. I think he is so good. He not only teaches you to parry, he teaches you to parry ranged attacks. He teaches you to Mikiri counter. He teaches you perilous sweeps. Because you can Mikiri sweep every single thrust attack in the game, not just spears. If someone jabs you with a sword, you can Mikiri counter. I should explain what Mikiri counter is. So the actual art is actually pretty cool, where the Mikiri counter is a really aggressive play where if you dash forward and you stomp on their weapon. So if someone jabs a spear at you basically stomp your foot on it and then you stab them.
Yeah. I think that's genuinely a pretty a useful thing in like real combat. So like I think that that's pretty.
But yeah, so you can do that with spears. You can do it with swords, which is really cool. So yeah, Genichiro, love that guy. But after you wanna know what happened after Genichiro, Tony? I didn't die to a boss more than a couple of times after Genichiro. Like that's how fundamental the game was about teaching me how to play. Was after that point, Phantom Lady Butterfly, I died to like 2 times. Lady Rin, I died to 2 times. The Guardian Ape, Headless Ape, Corrupted Monk, Owl, I died to a couple of times. Folding Screen Monkeys I killed first. Folding Screen Monkeys is kind of a joke boss. I understand what... So there's a couple of bosses in Sekiro which I would say are like way too easy to be in Sekiro. And it's like there's mini bosses harder than them, which confuses me because there's a lot of mini bosses that are actually harder than some of the bosses in Sekiro. So you're seeing Demon of Hatred right now, which is an insanely hard boss, but there's a boss in Sekiro called Folding Screen Monkeys, and it's not a combat boss, I would say. It's more like a puzzle boss, and it takes the idea of see no evil, hear no evil. You basically have to hunt these monkeys, and one of them hears you very well, so you have to deafen him and sneak up on him. Then one of them sees you very well, so you have to go into a room and blind it so it can't see you. And then there's there's also one that's invisible, which I just accidentally ran into and killed. There's always one that like stalks you invisibly, and I kept walking into something, and I was like, there's something there, but I can't see it, and I just killed him. But yeah, Folding Screens Monkeys is From Software trying to do a puzzle boss, which I don't know if they've ever done a puzzle boss before, but that was their attempt. And then I should explain Genichiro's third phase quickly. So Genichiro's pretty standard phase 1 and 2. He has like these sword-based attacks. Then in phase 3, he goes into Genichiro Way of Tomoe, and Way of Tomoe is basically a lightning stance, and lightning is like a heretical art in Ashina because they were attacked by lightning people before. But it comes this mechanic where he will jump up into the air and shoot lightning at you. But I actually think once you know how to counter it, it's one of the easiest things to counter in the game. Where essentially, if you jump up into the air while you're being attacked by this, you can actually send the lightning back at them and it will stun them. And I actually think it makes a lot of lightning-based bosses way easier because of how easy the reversal is. So Genichiro's phase 3 is like substantially easier than the first 2 phases because of this. Ishin has a lightning phase, which is easier because of the lightning reversal. There's a boss called the Divine Dragon, which is literally you running around, jumping up onto platforms and sending lightning back at him. And it meant that, you know, like, the Divine Dragon, I first time killed it. It was a very easy boss. Like, but yeah, that's sort of my, like... I think definitely certain bosses in Sekiro are way harder and more rewarding, I would say, than others.
Did you say how many times you died to Demon of Hatred?
I died to Demon of Hatred 23 times.
23, okay.
I died to Genichiro 30, and I died to Ishin 27.
Right.
I died to, like, I know people find Lady Butterfly hard or Owl really hard, and I died to them 3 times, but I died to a mini-boss called Seven Spears 10 times. It's like...
Right.
Like, some bosses you will find way harder than others, and it might depend personally what you find hard in the game, or what order you face them in. And because I faced Lady Butterfly after fighting Genichiro, I was substantially better at the game. And it's possible to face Lady Butterfly before you face Genichiro based on where you want to go.
Right, okay.
I didn't... Because I saw people saying, you know, certain bosses were quite hard, and then I found I didn't find them that hard. Like, Rin of the Water, the mini-boss, is meant to be quite hard, but I didn't find it very hard.
I don't know if this necessarily translates in the same way, but I find in a lot of games, like, I just completely disagree with, like, how or what problems you're having with a certain boss.
So for me, any boss that spam attacked me, I loved, because I could get so many free parries off. There's a boss, there's a mini boss who's like a centipede, and he essentially comes at you and he just goes attack, 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 attack. But if you just if you spam parry on a rhythm, he is one of the easiest mini bosses in the game, because he basically attacks you, you parry him, he breaks his own posture, and then you death blow him.
Right, okay. But I guess if you don't have that rhythm to like counter, then it's done.
But if you don't know that as well, like, knowledge is very powerful. It's like there are certain bosses in Sekiro that are very weak to prosthetics, and the Demon of Hatred is very weak to the fire-resistant umbrella, and is also very weak to the Malcontent Ring, which is a ring that stuns beasts. And you can use it 3 times on the Demon of Hatred to get these stuns off. So my strategy was, the reason I was using Tanto was because I wanted to guarantee I could get the umbrella deflects off so I could block the fire damage, but I wanted enough spirit emblems to be able to cast the whistle on phase 3 so I could stun him and get a bunch of damage in. Because in phase 3 he creates like this fire ring around you and he's very like unpredictable.
It's a lot more dangerous.
He's dangerous, but also when you have this ability to stun him, you want to try and do it at the end of the fight because you don't want to waste like the attempt on like a bad attempt sort of thing. You'd rather do that at the end when if you know if it's going to be a good run or not. This is phase 3. So that's a perilous attack there, and for that perilous attack, you jump over the first one, you duck under the second one, and then you jump over the third one. I'm trying to do the strategy here, but I immediately die. This is what I was. So he creates this wall of flames, and then I'm dying to burn damage. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Is it the first time you got to phase 3?
I think so, yeah. Or one of the first times. I think I didn't record all my initial attempts of this.
Right, okay.
I'm trying to skip ahead to show you the game-winning kill on him. I'm not sure how far in it was. Because this is like 40 minutes of footage, but I'm just trying to find the actual kill. I think this is it. But this is what it... What, sorry?
Because you said you were tilted from this, and like you hadn't played Bejeweled 3.
Zen mode, yeah.
Yeah. Did you go back to it the same day, or did you like wait until the next
I went
day
back into the same day, did a couple of attempts, and then the next day I came back and crushed it. I think that's the funny thing about bosses in video games sometimes is I'm of the opinion if you're completely tilted, you shouldn't try and push through it. You should just take a break and then come back.
I 100% agree. Because I think your brain...
Because I always
you're
find...
slowly processing it afterwards.
I always find that if I take a break and come back to something, I just like immediately crush it as soon as I come back. I find at least.
Because I think... Because you're thinking about like what went wrong, whereas when you're tilted, like you're just so focused on something... Maybe not irrelevant, but like the wrong things to be able to complete it.
My heart was racing so fucking fast. I'm like, I've got no resurrects, I've got no healing potions. I have to kill him here. I'm constantly on 1 HP the entire time. And he's on max posture, which means one hit will kill him, pretty much. But I have to dodge his attacks, and I get the death blow. And that's the Demon of Hatred. So, the reason I really wanted to kill the Demon of Hatred was he's the sculptor gone into a fit of rage, and the sculptor is one of your few friends in the game.
Okay.
And I was like, I have to put him down. I have to stop him going on this murderous rampage. There's a couple of guys, like, in the beginning of the game, there's this guy called Hanabi, who is a undying soldier, and he's essentially the training dummy of the game. You can go and fight him as much as you want to just practice mechanics, and he won't kill you, and every time you kill him, he can't die. Oh, so this is Ishin, by the way, because I've got footage of me fighting Ishin as well. So this is at the end of the game. We're already in the spoiler section. And Tony, to fight Ishin, you have to fight Genichiro again first, every single time.
Oh, no.
But by this point, I think I die a couple of times to Genichiro in the beginning, and then I could just consistently kick Genichiro's ass, and I'm like, I've beat this guy so many times now. He has like a couple more like unique attacks, but by this point in the game, I'm like, I know how to defeat Genichiro. But just to explain the story here, the Divine Heir Kuro wants to basically... When people get resurrected by the Dragon Heritage, it creates this thing called Dragon Rot, which is a mechanic in the game where if you keep resurrecting, people around you get infected by this disease. And Kuro doesn't want to carry the burden of always infecting people around him. So he basically wants you to help him sever the Dragon Heritage. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. I went through one called the Return Ending, where you can basically, instead of... There's one where you kill yourself to stop the Dragon Heritage because you're linked to Kuro and you need to kill... It's like a Horcrux, right, from Harry Potter or something, right?
Yeah.
When I was doing the Return Ending, where basically a corrupted bunch of monks created like a fake divine child, like a fake divine heritage, and she's basically like, oh, if you want, I'll become a cradle for the dragon, and I'll take it back to where it came from, the west.
Okay.
So that's the ending I did. Well, they say the west, which people assume west of Japan means that the dragon came from either China or Korea. So they think potentially if they ever made a Sekiro sequel, it could be set in Korea or China.
Yeah.
Which I think is
very
interesting.
Chinese dragon or something.
Yeah. Which I think would be an interesting way to do it.
Yeah. Well, Sekiro 2 sounds great.
I'm excited. Sekiro DLC, Sekiro 2, I'm excited for it to come out any day now.
I assume this game sold okay, if not good.
So I actually saw a post recently. It just hit the 10 million units mark, like literally a couple of days ago.
Okay, I know it took a while, but that's still pretty decent.
Well, I think selling 10 million units of a game is nuts. Selling 1 million units of a game is crazy, but it's been out 2019, so 4 or 5 years now, right?
Yeah.
Almost. Which is crazy for... I think lots of people since Elden Ring have been going back and playing the From Software catalog because of how popular that game was, and I think that's created this big influx of From Software players, probably myself included, because I just kept hearing about Dark Souls and From Software games and Elden Ring and Sekiro and stuff on the podcast I watched, the Steak and Eggs podcast. I was like, that sounds really fun. I should try that.
I have this funny feeling that Elden Ring kind of like, because again it has something like,
so in the beginning here, I'm
ways of playing.
I'm learning what I can and cannot do to this. But I'm trying to use the umbrella to block the Mortal Blade here, which I'm learning you cannot do. So there's 2 Mortal Blades. So Kuro tasks you with getting the Mortal Blade, which kills anyone he draws it, but you can use it because when you... I need to jump counter there. That was a mistake. I'm going to watch this the entire time. Oh, I should have deflected. Deflect. No, that was an easy deflect. I get really pissed off watching myself playing because I'm like, oh, I should have done this. I know exactly what to do now.
Well... At least you didn't do that when you're watching other people play. I think that'd be the worst combination.
I'm the biggest backseater in all of gaming, which is why I try
to
avoid
I feel like you don't get
you're
going to get angry at them, though, is what I'm saying. I feel like it's... Yeah. I think it's fun.
Number one most watched game on Twitch is Hearthstone Battlegrounds, and the entire time I'm typing in the chat trying to backseat the game. I'm just like, play this card, misplay, should have played this card. Actually, the best strategy I found for this was when he does that big, Mortal Blade attack, what you can do against Genichiro is you just run behind him because the attack doesn't go behind him. I should have Makiri countered it. It's a free Makiri counter. And you can basically, he does this attack, you're completely behind it, and then use the Ichimonji double, which, in my opinion, is probably the best combat art in the game. It is so good. It costs no spirit emblems. It is... Makiri, nice. And basically, it's this big overhead smash, but not only does it deal a load of damage, it damages posture even if they block it. The problem with the Ichimonji double is, though, you lock yourself in a super long animation when you do it. Yeah. So you can get punished really hard unless you're, using it correctly. So it's, one of the most satisfying combat arts in the game when you're like, oh, the boss can't attack me here, I'm going to use the Ichimonji double, which then staggers Genichiro, so he can't actually do his double Mortal Blade attack. But the thing about the second Mortal Blade, which we're in spoilers, so I can tell you, is that it actually opens a gate to the underworld, and Genichiro's like, well, I can't defeat you. I'm going to fucking resurrect my granddad in his prime to come and kill you. So you get to fight Ishin the Sword Saint, which is considered to be one of the hardest From Software bosses they've ever made. As well as the Demon of Hatred. He literally just comes out of his fucking body. He's like, oh, my grandson, you prankster. Ishin's a really cool character because he's actually kind of on your side throughout the game. He wants you to become stronger and protect the Divine Heir, and he actually...
But disagrees with this.
when
ending.
Ishin's alive, he dies defending Ashina. Like every character has like strong motivations, and Genichiro's #1 motivation in the world is to protect Ashina. Am I saying Ashina? And basically, he'll do anything in the world, which is why he learns the heretical arts of the Tomoe, which is why he gets the Immortal Blade, and is why he wants the power of the Immortal Dragon, is because it will allow him to have this power to defend Ashina.
Right, okay.
But your motivations in life is you want to destroy the immortality because your master Kuro has tasked you with destroying it. So it puts you at odds ends with Genichiro, which leads you down this path of, the two mortal blades clashing in order to try and one wants to keep the immortality, one wants to destroy it.
Yeah.
And there's tons of like...
Kind of cool.
Oh man, I would get into the hour mark of talking about Sakurai, but there's so much stuff I can go into. There's corrupted monks who have immortality through like these centipedes they have in their bodies. There's like a Fountainhead Palace where there's these like beings that have ascended and they worship this like immortal carp. There's so much like weird Japanese folklore in Sekiro that's so interesting. There's these headless monsters that you kill that are like some of the hardest mini bosses in the game, but they give you these sugars that buff you up to help you fight the different bosses and stuff like that. Oh man, I think like for me, Sekiro is a fucking insanely unique game. I don't think there's any game out there that I have played so far that is like Sekiro, and it is so engaging that I want to keep playing games like Sekiro. It is so cool.
So you're going to go and play other FromSoft games then? I
don't know, because Sekiro is so unlike every other FromSoft game.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
I feel like if anything similar to be
Ichimonji
Ring,
double.
Like even then.
I know Sekiro and Elden Ring and the new Armored Core are all inside the same engine.
Oh yeah.
People joke that Phase 2 of Ishin, he time travels to get a glizzy. He's so powerful, he time travels. Well, because in Phase 2, he pulls out a fucking, like, handheld pistol and starts shooting it with it. He's like, that didn't exist in feudal Japan. There's no way you could use something like that. Because this is Phase 2, right? Phase 2, Ishin's like, yo, I use a spear now, and I have a fucking glizzy. And then in Phase 3 for Ishin, there's the glizzy. Phase 3 goes into full lightning form.
Right.
But yeah, that's Ishin. Yeah. So I should explain.
I would call Six Heavy as like a posture thing, but not in the same way at all. But it's like kind of like a light version, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. So there's actually a game-ending choice in Sekiro where you go into the Shura ending, and basically instead of I talked about this, where instead of Al gets you to agree to the Iron Code of the Shinobi, which is always obey your master. And he basically says, okay, now's the time to betray Kuro, who I've put you in charge with. I am your true master. You need to obey the Iron Code. If you obey the Iron Code, you skip Fountainhead Palace, you skip fighting Inagenichiro and fighting Ishin and fighting the Demon of Hatred. You then have to fight Emma, the medicine woman. You then fight Ishin in his non-resurrected form, because he hasn't died yet in that part of the story. And then you actually fight Al. I believe you fight Al because you become a Shura. And Shuras inside Sekiro lore are like demons. And going down the path of just betraying Kuro and wanting to kill everyone turns you into like this demon. Like the demon of hatred is like a Shura, basically. There's this idea throughout the game that there's this thing called Red Eyes. You can actually achieve Red Eyes yourself, which is an item that lets you basically massively buffs your attack power, but you can no longer resurrect if you have the red eyes. There's a whole like morally grey side quest in Sekiro where there's a guy standing in a dungeon who goes, "Yo, bring me some people to experiment on," and you can take main story characters and bring them to him, and he'll basically perform experiments on them and give you this red eye power. But then you can no longer progress their side quests if you decide to kill them.
Right. Okay. Can you bring them some that, or does all side quests like take you to the end of the game to complete, or can you like find someone?
No, so there's 2 characters you can take to him.
Okay.
But almost both, I think both of them, it's way better to do their associated side quests because they give you much better rewards. So there's a samurai guy called Juzo who's basically, he's hearing somebody playing like this Tangerine. And he's like, "Do you hear that music? Where's it coming from?" And you can lead him to the abandoned dungeon. If you follow him into where he's going, he takes you to Orin the Water, who is playing the Tangerine, looking for our long-lost love. And when he gets there and you defeat Orin, he basically gives you a bundled Jizo statue. And bundled Jizo statues are incredibly valuable because they let you recharge one of your resurrection nodes if you have died. And then there's a monk inside the Buddhist temple, the Senpo temple, that you can send him to the abandoned dungeon, but he has 2 side quests. One where if you send him to the peddler, who's a merchant in the shop, it will expand his inventory because it allows him to loot more stock off the corpses of warriors. And then also, at the end of the game, it gives you a item that reduces how much stuff costs in shops, which is very useful for New Game Plus because you carry that through to New Game Plus.
Right. Okay.
Then there's also another where you can. That's the bad ending, and I was like, why is that the bad ending? And then I found out that he like gets killed on the 3rd raid of Ashina Castle if you send him to the peddler, which I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of a sad ending. But you can actually go down an ending where you basically send him to the Halls of Illusion, and it becomes like he gets to like rest there basically.
Okay.
The ending
Not
I did
so bad.
the ending I did is considered the good ending. I think.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the
It
return
seems the
ending where
honourable one.
you don't have to kill
Return.
yourself or Kuro. You basically free Kuro of the dragon's heritage without having to do anything. Like
you're removing the curse.
The sure end is considered the bad ending, I think, where you basically betray Kuro and you go down this path of becoming a demon yourself.
Well,
but the
betrayal is normally considered bad.
I mean, you're betraying Al whenever you betray the Iron Code, though. And Al is your like adopted father, right? Like Genichiro himself actually was not born in Ashina. He was like a peasant that came to be adopted by the Ashina people, but he's come to like learn and respect them.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. That's the combo I'm talking about, where if you deflect the entire thing, it says so. I blocked a lot of those and missed some of them. But if I deflected that whole thing, his posture bar would have been gone. But yeah.
Just not need to be better. Get good. So you've learned how to be good. You've gotten good, and you're now good.
Yeah.
That's why I think we've learned after this hour and hour 8 minutes that you're now good.
I got good.
You've become good. Yeah.
I don't have the footage of me killing Ishin because I recorded like 25 minutes of me dying, and then I was like, oh, I'll do some practice runs and just stream this to my friend Jesse on Discord. And then when I was streaming it to him, I killed him, and I was like, oh, I don't record it, but I did stream it. So,
well, if you want to see that, you have to play the game yourself.
Yeah, it's cool. So, Tony, I have rated Sekiro 5 out of 5 stars. I think it is a perfect game. I think it may even be my front runner for my game of the year. It is so good. And that's saying something considering I've rated like 5 other games 5 stars, potential game of the year. The problem is I've also played like Super Mario Odyssey, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Bowser's Fury, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Like,
we could cheat and like a best game in genre.
No,
I
Grand Theft
I
Auto
personally don't see
5.
the point of choosing one. Sometimes if like everything's so close, but if you think that one's like far and ahead, like sure, go for it.
Based on recency bias, Sekiro I think is my current favorite
Okay,
game. That's how much
okay.
I love this game. Like I want to replay this game right now. The only reason I stopped playing it was because one, I was like, holy shit, my heart is racing, and also, I really wanted to finish this before October because October is spooky month where I play Halloween
Yes.
games, and
Yeah.
it's from the recording of this, it's a couple of days until Halloween starts. Spooky month.
I would consider Sekiro somewhat spooky though. Maybe not like super spooky, but like I would think it has themes that I would like say, yeah, that's fine for Halloween.
I guess. Oh, there's some things I want to. There's so much to talk about with this game. I could go on for another hour. So XP you always want to try and bank, and it's very rewarding to not die and kill bosses because you get tons of XP. And then you can. There's some skills in the game that cost a lot of XP, like 5 XP. Is a lot in Sekiro to get that without dying. There is one item in the game. Like if you're really struggling with Sekiro, there is one item in the game called the Dancing Mask, and it basically allows you to farm 5 skills levels, and you can increase your attack power by 1, which you normally wouldn't be able to unless you killed a boss. So technically,
Right.
you can only get it at end game, like around Owl, Demon of Hate. No, it has to be after Owl. So literally, when you can get the mask, it is only Ishin and Demon of Hatred. Yeah, those are the only bosses, and they're the 2 hardest bosses in like From Software history.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
technically,
They just
you
added
can.
there, you didn't
Technically,
have to.
if you really, 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 really wanted to, you could farm attack power before defeating these guys. I didn't, and I was able to defeat it, but you can do that if you really need to. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Also, when you die, you lose a percentage of your gold. Sekiro lets you buy gold pouches, which cost more than the amount of gold you get from them, but you keep items when you die, and I think that's a really cool way to do it. Where you essentially...
The trade-off. You're investing.
Yeah, you have to spend more money, but it's money you can keep. It's like banking, basically.
Yeah. Have you... It's like the weakest link if you ever watched that.
Bank?
No, this is...
Yeah. That was a sweep attack. I should have jumped.
So yeah, so you're... I think one last question I was going to ask is like, how long did it take you to complete? Because like it's been a fair few weeks from what I remember. I couldn't quite remember.
So my Steam
playtime
playtime is 64 hours.
Okay.
And I got 191 deaths and 5,036 kills on mobs. Like I did kill some mobs to get levels. Like just go and kill mobs over and over. I didn't really grind that much, but there was some skills where I was like, I really need this skill. I'm going to go and kill a bunch of mobs in a row to try and get some levels for skills, but I didn't particularly grind anything. Like, I kind of wished I could have bought more sugars for the final bosses because the peddler gets fucking killed in a raid. And I was like, oh, fuck, I wish I bought a bunch of sugars because now that vendor's dead.
It is cool that a vendor being killed is actually like impactful in gameplay. Like,
yeah, because
I think that's really cool.
So through several times about that story, Ashina Castle, I'm like, oh, I know this castle really well. And then a bunch of my warp points go disappear and you can't use them. I'm like, what the fuck? And then as you go and re-get them, basically Ashina gets attacked by the Imperial Ministry sort of thing.
Right.
And there's this, and then it completely changes the world. And then there's another attack after that point when you kill Owl, which then starts the events of the end game where the Demon of Hatred gets summoned, the Peddler gets murdered. Genichiro summons Ishin, like, yeah.
Crazy.
I love this game. I love the environmental storytelling. I love the exploration. I love the boss design. I love the combat. I love the music. I love the sound.
Yeah.
It is so fun to play.
A masterpiece.
And I think, fundamentally, I think anyone could beat Sekiro, but I think you just have to commit to it.
To learn and,
so
like,
for me,
to improve.
I started playing Sekiro at the start of September, and it wasn't until the 26th of September I finished Sekiro. I didn't play it in a row, so I was like having multiple days breaks between that, but it did take me, I would say, you know, a few good play sessions to be like, I would play for a few hours every day and then skip a couple of days and then play it again. Like, I had to mentally prepare myself for playing it again. Some days I would just come on and explore, and then some days I'd be like, right, I'm going to kill a boss today. I'm going to kill this mini boss today. And that was something I really enjoyed doing. But yeah, I think if you're able to commit yourself to Sekiro, it is one of the most rewarding games in gaming history. It is nuts. And I have beat it now, and I have video proof of me killing the Demon of Hatred. But yeah, thank you for checking out this incredibly long Tangerine, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hesitation is defeat.